Happy Saturday. Hope you had a fun, safe Friday night last night. We did. I got in touch with Will earlier yesterday. I had heard about he was going to have another get-together with the guys. But unfortunately, we had plans to go out, so I got the hiccups. Drank my coffee too fast. So I wasn't going to be able to take a minute, just pop in and say hi, you know. Previous one I did, and even then it was real short and sweet. We were heading out to a comedy club. We had a good time that night with Xavier, that I call Weird Al Yankovic. He's a cool guy. We know him personally. So sometime over the weekend now, when I got, I assume it's going to run at least an hour. I got, an hour I can sit down and watch something. I'll do it. I'll get to it this weekend. Anyway, when people talk, it's easy to listen to what they say. And maybe it's just me, but sometimes I think about what they don't say that I think can carry a little more weight, and it's something to really take a look at based on the person, I'll get this out of the way first. I was going to start out with this, but I'm kind of like chomping at the bit here to get to something. I'm being a little bit impatient, and I got ahead of myself. Fucking cigarette didn't light evenly. No, this is a real cigarette. It's not an Uncle Brian lifter. It's a time and a place for everything, and this is not the time or the place for an Uncle Brian lifter. I had mentioned how, during a couple of phone conversations over the week, they were pretty lengthy. Dave and I talked about clones and things. There was also something else we talked about, how if you're on YouTube, if there was no way for anybody to make a single fucking penny, couldn't get monetized, no sponsorship, no paid ads, you couldn't run your flea market on here trying to sell hats and t-shirts and bumper stickers or anything else you could stick your fucking name on to hustle a buck. There was no opportunity to make any money here. How many people do you think would be here? Take a second and think about that. How many channels do you think would be up on here if there was no way to make money? Dave and I had a good laugh at that, Now, when it comes to Sanford, and the reason, for some reason, and I've thought about this in the past, I think I may have even mentioned this in the past. Very often I've thought about the things he does not talk about. Believe me, he goes well out of his way to brag on himself and glorify himself every fucking chance he gets. And then, big car guy, big car guy, bragged on how big nitro guy, but he had no success in nitro. He was a nobody. And there were some things I talked about on the phone that, a lot of things I don't talk about here. Well, kind of early for that shit around here at the beach. For some reason, this cigarette don't want to fucking burn. Bought a new tobacco. Okay, I'm gonna knock that head off. Pull it down a little bit and try to get a fresh start here. Now I feel like Sanford, I'm fucking failing on shit. Maybe I'll get it right on the 8th or 9th try. Even Sanford can't do that. Maybe I'll be able to do it with a fucking cigarette, what he's never been able to do with a fucking car. Oh yeah, something is definitely wrong here. I'm like not getting a drag off it. Like sometimes you get like a chunk of tobacco in there. I didn't notice it when I put it in the injection machine. Fuck it. Let it burn away. He's bragged on so many things, but the things he's never really talked about kind of piqued my interest. Big time car guy, nitro guy. No success in any of that. And that wasn't long-lived. He's never had steady, consistent employment throughout his life. He's had employment, but never steady and consistent in any one area. Even his magazine days, you know. I wrote a couple articles for this magazine. Oh, I even wrote an article for Hot Rod one time. Oh, I wrote an article for that magazine. Oh, I started my own magazine. He doesn't tell people it lasted the first 3 issues and then it failed. You know, it went under. And then, like I said, there are a lot of things I've never talked about. There was a time when, for whatever reason, people came across me and they said, you know, I'm blocked from Sanford's channel. You don't know who I am. I said, no, I don't know who you are. You know, I'm in New York. I have 3 people. Been in New York all my life. Been around the tracks. I own and operate a shop. You know, we knew Sanford when he was back here. You want to hear about his reputation? Yeah, he was around tracks, but was never competitive. He never personally took any of his cars to a track that... He never took any of his cars to a track. He had that one altered that was a fuel nitro altered. See, that thing was a fucking joke. It was a basket case. I even told... Remember Dave? I told you about that. Even to this day, you go up to New England Dragway. Along the way, once you get up to the more rural parts of New Hampshire, you'll see trailers sitting there with fucking weeds growing up. You'll see old front engine diggers, old retired funny cars, old retired pro stockers, super stockers. Cars that raced in the 60s and 70s. They've been rotting away there. They are pure fucking junk. These guys can't give these cars away. Nobody wants to go to the trouble of fucking hauling it away to even want to take it to a fucking scrapyard. You see fucking, you know, the Hemis with the bug catchers, fucking straw from birds that have been living inside that Jimmy 671 blower and fucking Mr. Gasket bug catcher, you know. They're pure fucking junk. And at one time, these cars were given away. At one time, they were in somewhat decent enough shape back like in the early 2000s where somebody, when nostalgia drags became a little more popular and somebody wanted to get into it, a lot of these cars were throwaway cars. Here, take it. Just get it off my property. And if they had a few bucks and a little bit of know-how and they could work on it themselves, they'd spend a year on them, you know. And they'd get it to a point where it could pass tech, they got to be safe, get it to look kind of decent, take it out to a track during nostalgia events. And they still were not competitive. You know, the times were not impressive. But it was something that was fun to do and they looked cool and, you know, it was fun for a guy. And Sanford's car was, he told me, the car was a throwaway car. It was a non-competitive car that was sitting away and he got it for nothing. And all his big-time Hemi experience never did anything with it. And that car didn't last very long. It sat there parked for a very long time. Then he unloaded it. Where it ended up, I don't know. And bounced around from this to that, you know. Even his badass 13.9 second Mustang LX. Man, he glorified that fucking car. I mean, 13.9 seconds is not really quick, you know. And even back at that time, it was 88, 89. You know, a lot of guys had Mustangs, a lot of cars had street cars a lot quicker than that. And he even said he called that, he was the king of the streets. Big badass. Staten Island. You know. Nobody went to race him. 13.9 second Mustang could not be beat on the street. And then he needs to glorify himself even more. You know, besides that car being quick and was dependable, I drove that car nights delivering pizza for a restaurant in my neighborhood. Wow. Wow. I guess when you're so successful that, you know, you have a good income, you know, you also need to pick up a part-time job to help pay the fucking bills delivering pizza. You know what I mean? I think maybe he had to give that up when he got his license revoked for life. Maybe when the restaurant owner found out, hey, wait a minute, this fucking dude lost his license. I can't have you delivering pizza for me. If he gets into an accident or something, I'm going to be liable. Hey, you got a guy on the streets without a fucking license, delivering for you, working for you. Now you're somewhat responsible for this fucking guy. I guess maybe that's why they give up his pizza boy delivery job. Then he had a coffee shop in New York. According to him, it was the most popular coffee shop. And everything he does is fucking great. And I remember this at the time. So popular. Oh, and then it went from one. He had a coffee shop. And over a period of time, he had a whole string. He had like 4, 5, 6. You know, he owned coffee shops all over fucking New York, right? But this first one, and from what I understand, it lasted a year. It went under. Went bankrupt when he was called on it. Oh, no, I just didn't feel like doing it anymore. No, went fucking bankrupt. Ran out of fucking money. It was not that great. But according to him, he said this himself, it was the biggest hot spot around for all the young people. In fact, it was such a hot spot that he couldn't get them to leave at night at closing time. He had like a music system in there, like a jukebox or some type of music system they could put in quarters, whatever, you know, play your own music. He couldn't get them to leave because during the day, he was potting out junk out of his house. He had 300 motorcycles at his house. He had so many motorcycles in his yard, he couldn't fit them. He had them in his living room. He even had motorcycles in his bedroom. He was potting out and flipping out junk motorcycles. Okay. And he was doing that all day, running his potting out and flipping business during the day. Then at night, he'd go to his coffee shop. And then when he wanted to leave, he was tired after a long day. He wanted to close. They didn't want to fucking leave because it was so popular. He had the best coffee. He had the best coffee shop in New York. Yeah. So what he used to do to get him out, he used to have a couple of CDs he kept there. Like I think he said the Partridge Family, the Monkees, you know, some other band. Real lame fucking music. He said I'd shut their music off and I'd put Partridge Family in or Monkees. It was some real lame music. They hated it. So they'd leave. That's the only way you could get them to leave is by playing shitty music. Then, hightails it out of New York. Gets to Tennessee, opens up a fucking hookah bar. Now listen to what I'm saying, all these businesses. Pay attention. Because what I'm going to say about what he doesn't talk about, I think, will be more than interesting. Gets to Tennessee, opens up a hookah bar. Hookah bar. Big time car guy. Coffee shop, hookah bar. Okay. I just gave you a little hint if you're following me here. That hookah bar went under in a year. That failed too. Then he rented a place, a building, and he was using that as his potting out business. Mopar Southeast, something like that. Mopar something. And he was all over the internet, you know, trying to sell his fucking pots. Well, that shut down in a year. Now there's, you know, he said, she said. He said, well, I had to close it down because the guy that owned the building sold it. And I couldn't find any other available space. What I had heard from people down there. You know, a lot of people in Tennessee, once they became aware of who I am, they know him, they knew what was going on. They said, he closed it. Owner sold it. Fuck no. The owner just wanted him out of there. What new owner comes along? Because he wasn't keeping up with, let's just say he wasn't keeping up with expenses. Okay. You got a building here that you're buying, and you're buying it purposely for a rental space, for income. Right? Now, people that are buying a building that's empty, when they're buying it, they got a large investment in that property. Now they got a little bit of worry in their mind. Okay, I'm buying this, it's empty. Now I got to get someone to come in here and rent it. And they want to do it as quickly as possible to start to recoup, start to get income coming in on a monthly rent, a monthly lease, right? Right? Common sense. But if you got somebody that's already there, they're paying their lease and everything's been fine with the previous owner, why would you kick them out? Wouldn't you let them just fucking stay there? You already have someone there. As soon as you sign those papers and now you own it, now that monthly rental lease check is going to go right to you. There's no waiting period to wait to get income. Wouldn't that make sense to you as a businessman? But he says, oh, he got kicked out. Building got sold. That's what he says. He says a lot of things, you know. Then went to Storage Locker City. And the whole time there, well, my battery's going low. Hold on a second. Holy shit. Hopefully I gotta move this closer, make sure my charger cable fits. I'm watching it flash. Okay, now I know it's charging. Still kind of low at 14%. Hopefully I don't run it out. I'm using up more than it can charge to keep up with it, you know. See what happens. Then he goes to Storage Locker City. I also did that on part of my Uncle Brian's Greatest Hits Volume 1. Remember that? Take me down to Storage Locker City where the cars are junk and they run real shitty. Oh, won't you please take me down? And then he needed a bigger place. And he said he needed a place because Maybe that makes a little bit of sense. He said he needed a bigger place to be a studio. Now he was going big time. He needed a studio to produce videos and make videos. Then it became less about working on building anything, just about making videos. He wanted to grow his channel. You know what I mean? He wanted to grow his channel. And he was going to do that by having it. Now he needed to look more professional, even though he's a fucking hack. He wants to present him. Hey, look, these other guys. He started seeing on YouTube guys at his garage. And he's there at fucking Storage Rocker City with all his fucking junk packed all over the fucking place. And I had heard from people there. His neighbors there weren't too happy with him. You drove in the place facility. It was nice and neat and clean. You got junk cars parked on the side, transmission here, rear engine there. It was a fucking eyesore when you drove in there. He was encroaching in other people's space that leased their lockers next to him. He had junk all in the back. He was potting out and flipping cars. And then they say, oh, well, you're not using that space. Why can't I put my stuff there? Like, you know, he thought he owned the fucking place. But I understand some people there threw a fucking party when he left. They were glad he was fucking gone. Now he's at this place. Now, have you noticed there's something I haven't talked about? Because something he never talked about. Big time car guy. Coffee shop, hookah bar. Bounced around for magazines. He didn't even have a steady employment as a lot of guys wrote for magazines. I think there's still some around today that have been writing for fucking 30 years, right? If not more, that I'm not even aware of. Why? Because they're good. But he bounced from here to there, a long laundry list of all different magazines. And the ones that failed. When he finally got full control as editor-in-chief. You notice he's never talked about owning an actual automotive shop. An actual engine. For a guy that, you know, says he worked on and built Hemis for 40 years, I talked about that. Anyone that knows simple fucking math can say, wait a minute, he's 60, been in Tennessee 20 years. He hasn't been building Hemis, and I don't think he's touched a fucking Hemi until he had that guy with his GTX at his shop where he pounded the fuck out of the end of his cam with a fucking, you know, 5-pound steel fucking hand sledgehammer, you know, jam it in there. And now he's fucking around with some other guy's Hemi at some place. So you got to figure, well, so 2040. Like I said, right, he was working on Hemis from the time he was born until the time he was 40 years old. You know what I mean? But even then, he doesn't talk about that from his past. No engine building shop. You'd think a big hot rod, big time car guy like him would have at least owned a fucking garage with 2 fucking gas pumps out front and a couple of bays and a couple of lifts. With all his great vast knowledge, he would have been very fucking successful. Why didn't he own a shop there? Well, then again, it's hard to get around there in New York without a fucking driver's license. You know what I mean? They may not be so lenient the way he gets away with driving without a fucking license in Tennessee. And I heard other things that he was involved in that I won't even say. I could, but I won't. I won't be that cruel. You know? Right, Dave? No transmission shop. He never owned anything where he was full-time, hands-on working on cars. Coffee shop, hookah bar, potting out and flipping junk motorcycles, and delivering pizza. Big-time car guy. You know? Now that I got that out of the way. It's the things he never talked about that kind of piqued my interest. It's kind of like this. If I told you I'm a great fucking greatest guitar player around here, you know what I mean? Oh yeah, what bands did you play for? Any that we'd heard of? Well, not really. Did you have a business building custom guitars? You know? No. Were you ever an instructor? Did you own a guitar studio teaching people how to play guitar? No. Wouldn't you say there's a little something wrong with this picture here? I told you, you know, I managed a fucking Dunkin' Donuts or a McDonald's or something. And I deliver newspapers on Sunday mornings for extra fucking money. You know what I mean? Wouldn't you say, wait a minute, there's a little something wrong with this picture here? Big time guitar guy, but I was never involved with anything really to do with any fucking guitars. So he's never really been involved with anything to do with fucking hot rods or nitro, and never, you know. And then we got to the aspect of, you know, if there was no way to make money on here, who would be on YouTube? And I heard something else, though, I thought was funny. Somebody mentioned something to me, and I had no idea who the fuck he was talking about. You know, I've heard, you know, people have been running their mouth about at me, Big Wilbur and whatnot. Every time I hear Big Wilbur, you know what I think of? When I was a kid, I was little, but I remember. But that show, Mr. Ed, a horse is a horse, of course, and west, of course, the talking horse, the famous Mr. Ed. And it was Wilbur. And I remember that, you know. Wilbur would walk up to the barn and Mr. Ed would be there with his head sticking out of the top, open half of the stall door. But Wilbur! On that show, when Wilbur talked to Mr. Ed, he was talking to a horse's face. Now, when people talk to Big Wilbur, they're talking to a horse's ass. Know what I'm saying? Yeah, I heard he had shit to say. And then somebody said something to me. I had no idea who the fuck this guy was. I hear people are calling him Inspector Gadget. That's another thing, too, on here. A lot of guys on here, they're all trying to reinvent the wheel. Everybody has a bigger, better way of tuning a carburetor, gapping a spark plug, you know, degreeing a cam. You know, there were some things that over time, it's a proven method. It works. You know, there's a saying, it ain't broke. You don't try to fucking fix it. But everybody's trying to fix shit that ain't broke. They don't seem to be making it any better. It just gives them content to fuck around and dick around with shit so they can get content to give used to make fucking money. That's what it comes down to. They want to reinvent the wheel, you know? And I hear people getting pumped up and they're glorified. Even fucking Sandy with his Casper the Not So Friendly Ghost. And that's what came to my attention when Sanford threw fucking Al under the bus at that no-show nationals because, you know, the carbs weren't adjusted right. It was gas washing. It turned the oil into milk and all. Fucking Sandy was there with him. He didn't have his truck. He showed up. At least he showed up, but not with his fucking ghost truck. Shouldn't he have noticed it? He was in there, from what I understand. He was in the pits adjusting the carbs and didn't he fucking notice that, you know, those carbs are a little too, you know, gas washing the engine? He didn't notice that? Yet Sanford never mentioned him. Just only Al. And yet I used to hear, oh man, Sandy's really great with carbs. Really. What I understand, he still can't get his fucking Dominators dialed in on his fucking truck. He can't seem to get anything right either. You know? I won't even get into the Crypt Keeper with this fucking scam that Sanford started. I already get into that. That fucking dude, if he is finally making some money on his channel, two things. He should buy himself a fucking personality. Secondly, hire a good fucking makeup person to at least make him look like he has, you know, some sort of flesh tone to him. He's so fucking wide, he's blending in with the fucking wall behind him. You gotta kind of look to see where he is. You know? Another one, too. But I've been hearing people talk about Inspector Gadget. Right? Right, Dave? Inspector Gadget. You know who that guy is, Inspector Gadget. I'm laughing. I do remember that cartoon. Wasn't it Don Knotts? It was from Get Smart. He did the voice for it, Inspector Gadget. Da-da-da-da-da, Inspector Gadget. I remember that shit. Probably because I haven't had a few Uncle Brian lifters at this moment. Inspector Gadget. Oh, yeah. He's another one now here, too. He's trying to reinvent the carburetor. He knows all about this, knows all about that. And he can't even do shit with his Mustang. And I said, Mustang? He said, yeah. And that's when it hit me. I said, you know, I think I know who he is. This was a very long time ago. And the only reason that I got to see who this guy is was because I have two cousins in Tennessee. David's in Morristown. John's in Bean Station. They've been there for like, I think, over 35 years now. And David was into cars and shit. And he still has the same 66 Mustang that he had back then. It was my Uncle Benny's car, his father's car. They bought a brand new 66. 6-cylinder, automatic on the tree. Just a real stripped out AM radio, no air, no, the base, the cheapest Mustang you could get is what my uncle bought. When David got his license, he gave it to David. And between me and a lot of my friends, over a few years, it ended up with a 351 Cleveland in it. That had a little bit into it, and it ran well. And then he went to Tennessee, and he's done more and more and more over the years. It ended up being tubbed. It's got a 4-link coilovers. This thing's set up nice. In quarter mile. And he drives it on the street. It's street legal. He drives it around. Take it to the track. His favorite track was Bristol, but he raced a lot of tracks in Tennessee. A lot of 8th mile towards the end, because like he said, you know, it's a little closer to get to. He started getting older. And he's older than me. He's got health problems. I don't think he's raced in the last 5 years. But I even put a video up on my old channel, him at a track making a pass with it. And this thing, when you have the right suspension, and it was tubbed at this point. He's got those big fucking beats. This thing set up, I think he's running like a 513 gear. It went from having a 4-speed to a C6, full manual valve body. He's up there like a 4 or 4500 converter. And this thing launches. It's like squat, the front wheels lift, both of them together. It's not like it's on a fucking waterbed roller coaster going down the fucking track. It's like squat, plants the power, front wheels come up. He's not pulling huge, massive wheelies, but both wheels come up about this far evenly. It's like squat, scoot, and gone. Real fucking quick. His 60-foot times are great. He has that setup. He has the right suspension. He knows how to plant the power and get the car going forward, putting all that power and torque into the forward momentum rather than using all of it to be pulling the fucking car sideways. You lose a lot of time that way. It might look cool, like I talked. I remember that black Chevy 61, 62 on here. Man, that thing's, it's almost pulling the fucking driver's side rear wheel off the fucking ground, and it's almost scraping the passenger side front bumper on. That thing's, wow, cool. You know how much fucking time he's losing that? You know how much time he's losing doing that? He's wasting all that horsepower and torque, pulling the car sideways and twisting it rather than propelling it forward where it should be going. You know, terrible setup. I guess some guys are into wheelie I don't know what the fuck it is. I am out of touch with a lot of things, so I don't want to talk about things that I'm totally clueless, and I will sound like a fucking idiot, and I'd rather not do that, you know? So, and I posted a video of him making a pass. It was at an 8th mile track. And on that pass there, I want to make sure I get this right. It was a low 6, like a 6.2 or a 6.3, you know, in the 8th. What caught my attention is because it's a 66. It's that, I think they called it silver blue. It's not a dark royal blue. It's not a bright blue. It's like a silverish blue, more blue than silver. It's not a powder blue. It was a factory color. I think it was a repaint, but back to the original repaint color. And what caught my attention was one day, what do they call it on here? What's trending? I know on Facebook it's a newsfeed. What's trending? One day I'm just scrolling out, a lot of random shit comes up, and something goes by a thumbnail. I look at it. Wow. See, I wasn't sure if it was a 65 or a 66 Mustang coupe. It was red. Wow, my cousin has one of those. That's why I see what this car's about. My only interest was to see what the car was about. I don't know, it had like mag wheels on it. I forget, it's been so long. They had mag wheels on it, and some guy standing there with it. So I click on the video and I watch it. The car it's okay, you know what I mean? It didn't seem like any badass hot rod. It wasn't like, car maybe you want to take to a car show, paint faded here and there, whatever, but it was decent, you know what I mean? I gotta say the truth, it looked kind of decent. I don't know how it performed. The guy was talking about it and talking about it and talking about it, but that's what really stuck out in my mind. It was two guys. And one of them, that's when I said, and when I mentioned this, he said, yeah, that's Inspector Gadget. That's who he is. I said, okay, now I know who Inspector Gadget is. So now in the future, I'll know who Inspector Gadget is. However, based on what I saw, I think I'll call him something a little bit different. Then I find out he talked a lot of shit about me too, along with other people. Hope it made them feel better and sleep better at night. Made them feel important, you know what I mean? Just didn't do a fucking thing to hurt me. Said, yeah. He had like a baseball hat on with a beak. But what was funny is he was the only fucking guy that's what jumped out at me. Because it was something so unusual I never saw before amongst car guys. He got a shirt on, buttoned up to the neck, and a fucking necktie. Like, he was dressed up. I don't know, I forget what he was wearing from the waist down, with pants, whatever they were. But it was a shirt. It looked like, like a dress type shirt, with a necktie and a hat. And I remember saying to myself, all this guy needs is to put on a pair of fucking knickers, put on some knee socks. He didn't go out for Halloween. It's fucking Angus Young at AC/DC. So I called him Angus Young. So if this guy ever pops up again or I hear him mention whatever, if I refer to him as Angus Young, you know I'm talking about what you call Inspector Gadget. And I guess that's about it for today. So enjoy your weekend now. Sometime this week, when I got an hour to sit down, I'll be able to go back. If it's still up, I know you keep your shit up. A lot of people, when they put shit up, they take it down when they get a lot of negative contents and comments and shit. Oh no, I don't want people to see it. Videos come down. From what I understand, Sanford's done that too on several of his live streams when things did not go very well. I guess his living housekeeper, maid, cook, laundry lady, t-shirt printer that he calls a wife, or Big Wilbur or somebody else. I hear he's got some pickle sniffers too that they go on his live streams just to watch comments and whatever's not favorable, whatever, you know, questioning him on things he doesn't want to talk about. They automatically delete contents, delete. I guess on those nights when they don't keep up with enough shit, and I guess he notices it later, or they notice it later, and it's too much to go through, you know, he just fucking takes the video down. I don't think Will's ever done that. Anyway, Will, I'll catch up with you. Dave, Will and Dave, I'll also give you a call sometime this weekend. And, you know, probably like Sunday night when the weekend's over, we can check in with each other, see how our weekend went, and talk about this and that. I just hope, don't take this in a bad way, but I really don't want to be on the phone with you guys for 3 fucking hours again, okay? Just letting you know ahead of time. Don't take it personal. I don't mean that in a bad way. And Nolan, if you're around, I'll be in touch with you. And Mike over at Mopaz or everything, I'll check in with you and see what you're up to, okay? Later, guys.